So in the past, I've created all sorts of things for the circular saw, whether it's the homemade table saw, whether it's the track saw, saw guide, dust collector, all sorts of things. So today I'm gonna give the Jigsaw some love. I'm creating a Jigsaw workstation. You can kind of put this in a limited tool series. I know this is a simple build, but if you guys need a set of plan, just let me know and I can create one. Otherwise, let's get into the build and I will see you at the end of the video. This video is brought to you by Skillshare, an online learning community for creators with more than 17,000 classes in videography, photography, productivity, and much more. I'll be using 3/4 inch plywood and also sheet metal for this project. The sheet metal is 1/4 inch thick, and the main reason why I'm going with the sheet metal is so that I have less friction when I'm running the wood across the top. You can also go with plywood, melamine, or MDF. Either one of those should work just fine. I'm going to start by setting up the two sides first, run a bead of glue on top of those. And after sitting the top down, I can take my corner square, clamp that into place, and that should hold the corners together while I go ahead and run some screws in. I took care of the two corners first, then I came back to the middle, add a couple more screws. Now the back doesn't have to be a specific height, but I wanted to keep it to a height that I can easily reach in and install and remove the jigsaw. It also helps if you throw tools in the back that it doesn't come flying out. The glue is strong enough to hold this in place by itself, but it takes a little while to dry, so I'm going to add a few screws in the bottom. Now the front's going to be laid out a little different. I'm going to fill the entire opening but push it back a few inches. The side's going to be glued, but I'm going to run a couple screws in the bottom and also on the top. This is the approximate location for the safety power switch that's going to be controlling the tool to turn it on and off. Now you can get them with the cord on it or without the cord. I'll link those down in the description. Jigsaws vibrate a ton, so you'll more than likely want to use wood glue in between every joint. Follow that up with some wood screws. And although I don't need it, I'll run a few screws down into the plywood below to keep everything nice and tight. I need to cut out an opening in the top. And before I do so, I need to make sure that my jigsaw is in a good location, and I want to make sure that the back is not sticking out too far so the power cord is not coming out. And after figuring that out, I can now go ahead and outline the section that I'm going to cut out. With the hole being cut out, I can now transfer the opening over onto the sheet of metal. Now I sat the jigsaw within that outlined area on the sheet metal. I then checked to see which side of the metal had a square end, and it looks like it was the back, so I had to reference everything off the back side of the sheet metal. Many of the jigsaw I've seen had threaded holes in the base. Now this one only has two, so I'm going to utilize the two that's in the front, and instead of adding two more in the back, I'm just going to add one in the center, drill a hole, and then use a nut and bolt. Now I can countersink the head so that the screws can sit below the surface of the workstation. And because the blades come in different size, I ended up going back and just wobbling out the hole a little more. Before securing the top, I'm going to sand down the top, and then I'm going to use some contact cement as a way of removing any kind of vibration and just solidify the top in place by having it bonded to the plywood. Now if I had a thicker sheet of metal, I wouldn't necessarily need the plywood support from beneath. A 1/4 inch sheet of metal will more than likely do the job, but an 1/8 inch sheet of metal is just a little too flimsy, which is what I have here, and I believe the weight of the tool will cause that to flex in the middle. After clamping down the sheet metal and placing weight on top of it, I'm gonna let that sit for a little bit and let the glue have enough time to bond. And with the jigsaw being pushed so far into the workstation, I'll need to add an access panel on the side so I can release the blade. So I'm gonna make a circle using a wing divider to score the metal sheet that I have. Then I'll take the jigsaw and cut that out. I'm gonna clean up the ends, and this can be done with a file or a sander. So the door is gonna be only held with one screw, so I need to drill a small hole for that. Now the largest hole saw bit I have is 5 inches, so I made the door 1 inch bigger, and I no longer have this bit because I actually hit a screw, and that's the end of it on this bit. So I'll have to finish cutting the hole out using a jigsaw. Now as a way to prevent that, I could have marked the screw location and this would never happened. Now this hole was a little close to the edge. It could have totally worked, but I decided to move it up by just plugging the hole and drilling a new one. So it looked like the contact cement have bonded pretty well, so I'm still gonna add a few screws along the edge of the plate. I need to make sure that I countersink the screws so that it doesn't interfere with the material I'm running across the top. The shell of it is pretty much done. I'm gonna clean it up, add some wood filler, sand it down, and apply first coat of paint on it. And while I'm doing that, here's a quick word from today's sponsor. There may be a time where you want to learn how to start your own business, or you want to take better photos to step up your Instagram game, or maybe you want to dive into videography or social media marketing. Well, that's what Skillshare is all about. Giving you the path to break down those barriers, develop new skills, and learn new things. Now, they've been a huge supporter of my channel, and with over 19,000 courses, I'm sure there's something there for you. Premium membership begin around $10 a month. But for the first 300 people that sign up using the link in the description, you get 2 months of Skillshare for just 99 cents. And these spots typically go quickly, so be sure to get in there. To install the door, I use a 1.5 inch screw, a washer, and also a keep nut. Now I would recommend using a lock nut because that's more suitable for this situation. So I'm now going to install the safety switch, and I made sure to drill a hole that was slightly larger than the biggest plug end. These safety switches come in a couple different configurations. You can get one like this that has the power cord coming off, or you can get it where you can wire directly to it so you don't have to see a power cord. This is a quicker way to get you up and running without having to worry about the electrical side. It's pretty simple. Just plug your power tool into one end and the other end go into your outlet. For this configuration, I only have 3 screws that support my jigsaw. 2 of the screws will get threaded into the base. The remaining screw will then secure the back using a nut. So I end up making a change in direction. I started by building the whole workstation around this jigsaw. It still works, I just don't like the way it performed, and I think I'm going to move on. And I went ahead and purchased a Makita one, and it's like night and day. And for right now, I just kind of jimmy rigged it in there so I can see if it worked before I commit to it. So far, I love it, and I think I'm gonna stick to that one and make this one work in future projects as well. So that's just to give you guys an idea, like I don't know, maybe it's me, maybe it's this thing, who knows, but I'm moving on from it. And with the change, I noticed that the blade sat straighter and did not vibrate as much. Finally, I sanded the top down using 120 grit, then 220, then 320. I gave the top a quick rub with some finishing wax. Let's make a couple test cuts and see how well it performs. To recap on what was done, I added a safety switch in the front. I also added an access panel on the side so you can quickly and easily change the blades. I added a metal top which provides durability to the workstation. There's also loads of room on the inside where you can store your blades, your power cord, and also hand tools. So let's make a few test cuts and see how well it performs. For a jigsaw, this came out pretty close. I only seen a slight difference from one end to the other, and I think adding a guide should improve that. I don't know if this is because it didn't have the support, but I did notice there was a bit of a vibration and the plate was jumping. Now I did notice with a wider piece, I didn't see the vibration, so it could be the lack of support. I switched the blade out for a scroll saw blade, and then I lowered the speed on the jigsaw to see how well this performed. So I'll make one more follow-up video to this one where I'll make a blade guide, and if I can think of some other stuff to put on it, I will. But if you guys got some ideas, let me know down in the comment. Until next time, guys, be sure to subscribe, hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and that's it for me. I'm going to continue playing my Flip the Egg game and see if I can get better at this.